Red Ray Gun Limited presents
The Benji and Nick Show.
Hello.
Hello.
Good morning.
Well, good afternoon.
Good evening.
Good day.
Good gravy.
Goodness.
Loch Ness.
Hey,
Get
got it. The addition of good gravy changes the flow, doesn't it? It's a bit of a...
Colin Smith has provided me with the winning move. Unless you came up with a different kind of good. Anyway, sorry, this is the Benji and Nick Show, and I am Nick.
And I'm Benji, and welcome. Come in. Don't sit on that chair today. It's got a wonky leg. I'd suggest there's a beanbag somewhere. I don't know where it is. You'd have to find it. But come in.
I think it's,
what do we do, Nick, in this sort of podcast?
Well,
realm of
we
ours?
talk about TV, films, and matters arising. We favour old-fashioned television, and quite often what we do is set ourselves the task of watching a bit of old telly in the intervening week between Sunday podcasts. This is all correct, isn't it?
It is all correct, yes.
You're nodding away there. I just thought I'd, bring that to audio life.
Well, thank you very much. Now everybody can see me head bobbing away.
Oh yes. And then we talk about it the next week. And the other thing we do, sometimes we do a commentary. We've been doing some Doctor Who commentaries. And sometimes we talk about the latest TV we've been watching. We also read out your emails sent to podcast@nicholasbriggs.com. This episode, as you may have gathered if you've seen the title or the artwork, we are doing the commentary for the second episode of the 1975 Doctor Who adventure starring Tom Baker, Elizabeth Sladen and Ian Marter. Revenge of the Cybermen.
Oh, yes.
Reviled by many Doctor Who fans, but loved by me and sort of tolerated quite well by Jamie. You're Jamie now. Jamie Anderson also sometimes appears in this podcast. He
certainly does. Yeah, he appears. This is the good thing about doing the commentaries, is that it's a chance for us to put through our views, and it's almost like a sort of trial thing, isn't it? It's if we both, I think, defended Death to the Daleks very well.
We celebrated it.
It's a celebration of Exelon proportions. The same with Revenge of the Cybermen. It's not as bad as people give it credit for being, in my opinion, and certainly
Do you
love
give something credit for being bad?
Well, it depends.
I think I'd give it debit.
Take that away. You're not allowed. But it's very exciting. I love doing a commentary, so I'm looking forward to this. It should be a corker.
What we'll do to start with is read out some of your emails. This first one here, which I'm trying to expand on the screen so that my bad eyesight can be excused. It's from John G. Wood, and it was sent on the 22nd of May at 1954. An excellent
what a year, yes.
Dear not Nick and not Benji, I've been catching up with the podcast lately and particularly enjoyed the Revenge of the Cybermen episode, which we talked about it before we did the commentary. When I first watched season 12 of Doctor Who back in 1975, I was still annoyed at Tom Baker for not being John Pertwee, who was firmly my Doctor. I started with Pat Troughton, but his stories were too scary for young me. It's only later on that I've grown to appreciate Tom's early stories as much as they deserve, and that means they still lack the nostalgic glow I feel for the rest of the Hinchcliffe era. Revenge is no exception, though I think I remember being impressed by the Cyberman head-mounted guns. I'm certainly a fan of the innovation now. I think I'm with Nick on loving the invasion design best, though. That's the story Invasion from 1968. Here's a question for the two of you to think about. If you could only pick 1 year of Doctor Who to save, what would that year be? These days I would definitely go for 1965, from the rescue through to the Feast of Stephen, partway through the Daleks' master plan. It's got two of my favourite TARDIS teams, more variety than pretty much any other year ever, and it includes my favourite serial, The Time Meddler. What about you guys? Would you go for 1974 because it's got Death to the Daleks, or would you pick something else with a higher concentration of 5 exclamation mark stories? What do you reckon? Doctor Who.
Okay, so if we're talking about any year, then I think I'm going to pull out a wild card here and say actually season 10. because it's just got some really good stories in it, and some
Which
stories.
one's season 10?
Season 10, so it's the Three Doctors, Carnival Monsters, Frontier Planet, and The Green Death. Mainly because I love Planet of the Daleks, and I think and Frontier in Space is a cracking story. The Green Death, they're all really good stories in that one, I think.
They are? That's a really good choice.
I think that's probably one that I would go for. Yeah, I mean, I love season 11 because it's got Time Warrior and Death to the Daleks, but I'd have to go for 10. If it was about missing things, about saving those, if that made sense, like those years, then it would have been season 4 for me.
What's in? Sorry, I don't know the numbers of the seasons. I only know the stories.
So season 4 starts with Smugglers, 10th Planet, then goes into Power of the Daleks, Highlanders, Underwater Menace, Moonbase, Macroterror, Faceless Ones, and Evil of the Daleks. Sort of a cracker, really, isn't it?
It's a shame that Evil of the Daleks isn't part of the following season, because then I'd go for that.
Yeah, that's a good choice. That is a good choice. There's some good stuff in that.
Because it's all the classic monsters, with the Ice Warriors and the Yeti.
Yeah, and you get a double whammy of Cybermen. I find that fascinating. That the Cybermen in that one. So it starts with the Tomb of the Cybermen, and then ends on the Wheel in Space with 2 completely separate Cyberman designs.
Yeah,
in the same
they're a long way apart,
season,
though, aren't they?
I suppose so.
It was a long season.
One was made in September '67. The other was broadcast in September, and then I suppose the next one was May, so April.
Yes, and also it wasn't really like seasons in those days. They just kept on making it and just had breaks for holidays. I don't think they thought this is the new season of Doctor Who. That's certainly, I'm saying that because that's how I appreciated it as a child. Doctor Who seemed to be on all the time in those days. They did have they had a bit of a break in the summer, didn't they?
Yeah, you just get like a sort of like almost just less than 2 months, don't you, really?
Yeah.
How interesting.
Yeah, it's had a very different feel to it. Whereas, with John Pertwee, it suddenly became seasons, and then, most of the year didn't have Doctor Who on, sort of thing. So that was quite upsetting. I'm skirting around the issue, aren't I? I suppose if I had to choose, probably Tom Baker's first one, actually, if I had to choose one.
That seems like the obvious sort of sensible choice, I think, in terms of... Well, do you know what I mean? Because I believe, as we've discussed before, I think it is the strongest out of all of the classic seasons. I think it's such a strong batch of stories, isn't it, really? That are all sort of linked together.
I like the old monsters in it, but I think Philip Hinchcliffe probably would choose his second or third season, because they're very strong stories, but it's all sort of old monsters. I mean, Terror of the Zygons to Seeds of Doom, that's a great season there, isn't it?
Yeah, that is an absolute cracker. Again, it is. But then, you see season 14, Mask of Mandragora down to the Talons is cracking. You've got Robots of Death, Deadly Assassin, The Hand of Fear. I think Philip Hinchcliffe is sort of my favourite classic Doctor producer era, actually. Hinchcliffe, was... I always think it's incredibly intelligent storytelling going on. There's a level of sort of class to it, isn't there, really?
It's a shame. I mean, it's lovely to have, met him and worked with him and spend time chatting with him as well. Let's continue with this here email from John G. Wood. On another subject, and leaping back to an earlier podcast, I've recently started watching Sapphire and Steel with my 18-year-old daughter. Because I'd not seen them since original broadcast, I was a little bit nervous. The memory cheats, after all. That's a famous quote from John Nathan Turner saying that to fans of Doctor Who, saying that old Doctor Who was much better than the Doctor Who he made. I think you'll find the memory cheats. I needn't have worried. We started with Assignment 1, since nobody told us otherwise, and it was a palpable hit. Little quasi quote from Death to the Daleks there. Despite its age, we both found it really tense and gripping. There were episodes where virtually nothing happens to advance the plot, and yet we were still on the edge of our seats. You see, but it's the promise of plot, so it is kind of plot in a way. It's a show that stands the test of time phenomenally well, or phenomenally. Anyway, that's all for now, except for one suggestion. Roll on the drums. Sausage on the piano. How about an episode on the TV which was aimed at younger children and has become cult? I was delighted that the small films shows, Nog in the Nog, The Clangers, Ivor the Engine, Bagpuss, etc. were hits with my children too, alongside Mr. Ben and Fingerbobs, and I enjoyed discovering some of the children's TV of the 2000s with them, others not so much. Whatever shows were on when Benji was young passed me by completely. He's mentioned some in pasteurizing, but I'd like to hear you do a young kids show swap sometime. All the best, John. Ooh, what do you think about kids?
You see,
stuff?
I love all the older kid stuff, I suppose. That's the thing. I was brought up on a lot of that stuff. So for me, I could think of nothing nicer than watching those things. I've always said that I'd love for them to do a live action Mr. Ben film. I just think...
Well, they were going to at one point with John Hannah in it, weren't they? Well, he was even interviewed on Radio 1 about it, I remember, yeah.
Why they didn't do it?
Very serious and method about it, and everyone thought, well, that sounds weird, and so it got cancelled.
You just need someone like Martin Freeman, Mr. Ben. That's all you need. What a choice! It worked perfectly. It's a cracking idea. I'd love that. But again, Ivor the Engine, absolutely love that. The Clangers, or Jones the Steam. I tell you what, I did watch a couple of days ago, just in the evening, was an episode of Camberwick Green. Because I went to a charity shop and I saw a little model of one of the it was the one with Wendy Miller. Wendy Miller. Wendy Miller. No, Windy Miller. Who the wind stopped and he had too much cider and passed out. And I was like, this is great, like a kid's show. Drama. And it was like, whenever he drinks his cider, it makes him very sleepy. I was like, yeah, you and me both, mate.
Windy Miller's pissed up on booze.
He's in the gutter, isn't he? But what a charming programme. I would absolutely love to watch some of those old ones. Tales of the Riverbank and, just so many good things, aren't there?
Yes. Gosh, I was just thinking what mine were. I hated Mr. Ben. I was too old for Mr. Ben, and Fingerbobs used to really freak me out.
Yeah, Fingerbobs was a bit weird, wasn't it? We could do one, maybe the summer special. We could do a summer special kids one, maybe.
Would you like to read this next one out by a good friend of yours?
I certainly would, yes. This is from Luke Peetnick, sound designer at Big Finish Productions. Pretty good. He's an old friend of mine as well. I've known for quite a long time. Maybe 10 years now. Subject on this one is The Secret Service. And this was sent 24th of the 5th 2019 at 17:44.
I thought that we might have read this one out before, but clearly not.
Who knows? Hi chaps, a quick one for you. Do you think you'd ever be tempted to discuss the often overlooked Gerry Anderson series, The Secret Service? It's something of an oddity and not all that popular in comparison with the rest of the Anderson shows. That may help to provoke some interesting chatter. However, Jamie Anderson seems to have a soft spot for it, and the way in which it's shot and edited is certainly unique. I await your thoughts. As an aside, I've also just finished listening to Big Finish's second volume of The Prisoner, which is stunning. The original is so close to my heart, and this version encapsulates its ethos perfectly. Once again, it's a brilliant piece of work of which you should be very proud, Mr. Briggs. All the best, gents.
Thank you.
Be seeing you. Luke, sent from Stanley Unwin's cupboard.
Stanley Unwin, who played the main character in the Secret Service, Father, what was his name? Was it just Father Unwin or something?
I think it wasn't it just Father Unwin actually? Yes, there was Bishop.
The Secret Service, I think, is probably unwatchable. I did watch some of it a while ago and thought, woof, oh dear. I mean, it's beautifully filmed and everything, and all the super marionation is great.
It's an interesting one. I think I like it I like it because of the concept alone sort of charms me. I think it's just so crazy that it's sort of amusing. And also
if you don't know, folks, it's because Jamie Anderson, it's because Jerry Anderson was so keen to get away from puppets and couldn't, that he made a puppet show, and he made it a sort of hybrid thing, so that in long shot all the characters were played by real people, and in close-ups they were played by puppets. And then it was further confused by the fact that one of the people miniaturized himself inside a case, so when he was inside the case and coming out and walking around next to bigger people, he was a puppet and they were real people. It was just crazy, and it wasn't fooling anyone. But
maybe we get Jamie in to we'll watch an episode of it one day and get Jamie in on the bants.
Oh yeah, he should. Yeah,
that'd be fun.
I'm sure he gave me a copy. I've certainly got a copy of the box set of the series, and I think he wangled me a free one. So we owe him something, don't we?
When you sleep and it's in the other room, do you sometimes hear just the faint calls of? It's like Jumanji, you know, like Jumanji when you can hear the drums going.
Oh yeah.
It's like that, but all you hear is.
I get dragged into a world where I become miniaturized in a briefcase. Yeah.
Miniaturized in a briefcase.
There you are. Now, Luke, thank you very much for being nice about The Prisoner. Thank you. I really must finish writing series 3. You just make me feel bad. Right. This one is from Adam Graham, a very prolific emailer to both this and the Big Finish podcast. He writes about Revenge of the Cybermen on the 3rd of June at 1:04 in the morning. He clearly is in America. I have no idea why all the hate for Revenge of the Cybermen. It was the best Cyberman story of the 1970s. In fact, I'd go so far as to say that there wasn't a better Cyberman story in between Invasion and Earthshock. Of course, this was the only Cyberman story in between Invasion and Earthshock, but still, in all seriousness, I don't think liking this story is a matter of nostalgia. I didn't start watching Doctor Who until I was a bit older and friends got into revived series. I was determined that if I was going to get into the new series, I would understand as much as possible and set out to watch all of the classic series. I came to Revenge of the Cybermen and I thought it was enjoyable. I was entertained throughout. Tom Baker was great, the companions were great, and the story was a fun jaunt. I looked online and see critics giving it a 2 out of 10, and I honestly don't get it. It's a fun adventure. Maybe not the best thing ever, but I can't help but like it. Adam Graham, sent from the set for the space station Nova, currently being used as a cyber cafe. Ha ha ha.
You can imagine that, can't you? Kelman serving up a bit of ice cream. Put spits in it as well.
Kelman wants gold.
I think in a way it's so easy, isn't it, to look at monster. I'd certainly, when I think of stories in the classic series, I think of them and kind of define them by their monsters, and it's so easy to say this Cyberman story isn't as good as, I don't know, Tomb of the Cybermen, or it's not as good as the Invasion or Earthshock or XYZ. But of course, when you look at it in terms of the fact that you haven't seen the Cybermen for ages and they return like this, and you think this, you know, I think it's very easy, isn't it, to judge things by other things. Yeah, it's easy to judge things by other things. You know, it's like if you wear a pair of shoes that aren't as comfortable as your old pair of shoes, you're always going to be sitting there thinking those shoes aren't as good. But if you haven't worn shoes for a good couple of years, you'd probably be really thankful for wearing the shoes. Don't know what that means, but and that all came down from me looking down at my own shoes.
Goodness me, we're very lucky about what you were looking at the time. Well, I'm not going to invite you to elaborate on that point because I feel we're descending into a level of madness that wouldn't be good for the mental health of either of us.
And that's very true. You can just imagine me in some kind of stuck in a little cupboard hugging my shoes. The shoes, they tell me things, like, don't you know?
Like John Pertwee in Spearhead from Space with the
shoes.
That's what I saw you as there. Thank you, Adam. What can I say? I think you're right. I mean, it's what's to hate about it? But it was because the Cybermen were kind of weirdly handled, and we had those silly voices with Christopher Robbie standing hands on hips, and I think old fans of Doctor Who really hated it because it was called Revenge of the Cybermen. They thought it was stupid because Cybermen don't have emotions. But I don't think that Robert Holmes was blind to that. I think he deliberately, it was an ironic thing, wasn't it, saying they were having revenge. I don't know.
Well, it's you could look further and say, why on earth would the catchphrase of the 80s of the Cybermen be excellent if they can't have any expression of emotions, yet they have that's such a passionate excellent.
It is.
It's not like,
well, I mean, it's a good real problem about the Cybermen that
affirmative.
Very good.
Excellent.
Then when I've said this a million times before, and probably on this podcast too, but the thing about the Cybermen is they have no emotions, and if someone has no emotions, their means of expression would be totally uninteresting. If you have no emotion, you just talk like this, wouldn't you? And you can't have a big monster bursting in and going, "The beacon is ours." Can you really?
No, well, quite. Yeah,
they have the beacon is ours.
The beacon is ours.
They sort of did it with the Borg in Star Trek, where I love the notion of when people went on to the Borg's cube. They were cyborgs, in case you didn't know from the name. You could walk around amongst them, and they wouldn't try to kill you if you weren't a threat to them. It's like you know what I mean? And that's really the Cybermen kind of, that would have been fun if they were like that. If they didn't ever interfere with or interact with human beings unless you tried to thwart their plan, and then just very briefly they'd kill you. They would immediately, swiftly change their thing. But if you're not hurting them, they just in
a way, it's those sort of Tomb of the Cybermen, moon-based sort of Cybermen, kind of got it right with their robot voices that are incredibly.
Well, no form of expression in those voices because the effect totally ironed out all tonal quality.
And they just stood there, didn't they? They just sort of.
So, yes, enough talk of Tomb of the Cybermen and the Borg. Although I feel I should explain to the listeners here, Benji. What should I explain?
Well, this is all a bit of electricery, isn't it, really?
Electricery?
Technical electricery.
Yeah, because. We tried to do this commentary, was it over a week ago?
Yeah.
It
remember that
all
day
went
well.
horribly wrong. We mentioned it in the last podcast.
And technology was nay working.
Nothing worked. So we ended up substituting we did the walk along the canal instead. But now, the earlier bit of this podcast was recorded a couple of weeks ago, and now it's just pointless telling you. We could have just seamlessly done it, couldn't we?
We could have done, but that's just the way it goes. I
am wearing a different jacket.
Yeah, which changes the whole experience, But you watch it in a t-shirt, you believe one thing. Watch it in a jacket, whoa, that's it. Different. So we've actually pretty much watched all this episode only a week ago. But we thought we'd give ourselves enough space in the re-recording because we'd lost the will to live by this point because technology was just going against us. It was late in the day and we were just like, no, not today. So we thought we'd leave it a little bit of time so that now we can sit and watch it and enjoy it for what it is and hopefully say the same things, if not better, this time.
And the only thing I say, Benji, is don't forget to speak, because I seem to remember last time you did a lot of watching.
I was enjoying it, yeah. Well, I've seen it now. I've bloody seen it now.
Seen it. I've had enough of it. Right, okay. Let's 3, 2, 1 and click, all right? So we're going to do 3, 2, click, like that, are we?
3, 2, 1, click, I think, isn't it?
Okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1, click.
Well, there we go. The wonderful title sequence. Look at it there. I always love that sort of weird slit scan. I probably say this every day. It looks like a tin can, doesn't it?
Yeah. Tin can slit scan.
Tin can. There he is. Did you see that wonderful photo? I think you did, because I think you retweeted it, of Tom Baker on holiday in front of a pyramid.
Yeah, but he had full costume on.
Yeah, it was when he was filming something else as well. Who would have thunk
it really?
Yeah. Somebody brought the hat and scarf along for a laugh.
Oh, really?
Because he was there and he put it on, yeah. Now, here's the wonderful gas coming through the floor.
Is it coming through? Oh, there it is.
It's on the bed now.
That's not superimposed, is it, that gas?
The gas isn't, but the electricery definitely is.
The electricery, that's exactly the same effect as they used in Planet of the Spiders. You know.
Yeah. And in Tomb of the Cybermen, actually, as well, isn't it? That.
But in black and white, obviously. Here she goes. White, yeah. Close encounter. Oh no, it's a props man. Get.
I love the sound of the Sonic Scrooge. Often forgotten that sound of the Sonic at this particular period in.
There's the light streaming through from the gantry there.
There's the little light, which looks very similar to the one on the wall in Death to the Daleks. Actually, when the power goes out.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I remember you said that last time.
Yeah.
I've got a feeling we're slightly out of sync with each other, but we're okay.
It's all right. We live in. Oh, look at that.
Look at all those Cybermen. No, we're not that out of sync.
Has Harry just run in for you?
A slightly pornographic shot there of Liz Sladen, I feel.
Oh, blimey, yes, quite.
Yes, well, quite.
One for the deads, and one for the deads. Terrible. Tony Blackburn walking around like he owns the place.
Yeah, there he is. I'm just going to spin some discs, he says.
You would not. I tell you, the one thing you wouldn't do is kick the Cybermat, would you? I would not kick that. I would be out of that room.
Yeah. It'd be good if it bit him.
Yeah. Well, it serves you right. Shouldn't have bit it. Shouldn't have kicked it.
Maybe made a funny little noise and he ran like hell and then went into the other room and sort of regained his composure.
I'm not doing that again.
Those are very big compartments, aren't they? I think I mentioned this in the aborted
but how do we know that the human beings of the future aren't massively tall and they force the small people, but they force the small people to operate the spaceship to keep it lighter? You never know.
That's true. I mean, interestingly or not, when I wrote Destination Nerva, which is a sort of, sequel to these things in audio for Big Finish, I had some aliens that were very tall. We should have made mention of the enormous transporter, teleporter, whatever they call it.
It makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
I very much doubt it. Putting away
I do apologise to the listeners. I just whacked my microphone by mistake, so if you hear a clunk...
Worry, I'll edit that out.
Clunk, click.
Now, of course, what he's putting around his neck there is the important... the thing he's taken out of the... is it the thing he's... Yeah. The Pentalion drive.
Yes, I believe it is. Isn't it around his neck on a bit of string?
Yeah, well, didn't you see him put it on just now?
But isn't it funny that they have string in space?
String in space.
It just doesn't...
4-part episode. Here we go. They're going to blow the lock off, aren't they? With the sheer force of the blank...
Oh... With the computer thing, which moves on an axis, but none of the actual control things move on an axis. So
that's a Vostok rocket airfix kit.
Is it really?
Yes.
And how do you know that?
Because things like that lodge in my brain. But I may be wrong, but that's what I thought at the time.
Well, it looks like something else, and something very dodgy at that.
Yes. Good old Michael Wisher and his dirty handkerchief.
Why did you come to work? I tell you every single episode we record this. Go home.
We don't want your germs. You see, Michael would have requested that from the props department or the costume department. I said, well, there's no handkerchiefs for the Vogans, Michael. No, I rather think I should have a handkerchief. But there we are, blown the lock off.
It looks like a teenager's bedroom, doesn't it? That rubbish old bed.
He's been smoking in there. I've told him.
I'll write a letter to his mother.
They missed a trick, didn't they? Kelman should have been a wayward teenager.
It would have worked probably better than a Nazi-looking string hoarder.
That's a nasty sore I mentioned earlier. She's got on her neck there.
It's very well done, isn't it?
You feel that pus might come out if you squeezed it. Pus of the Cybermen.
Pus of the Cybermen, a 4-part story by Kit Pedler and Jerry Davis.
I really felt that when it blinded him there. I was a bit worried that the Doctor's eyesight was going to be affected.
It was a great explosion as well.
Well, and they sort of whited out the image too to sort of add to it.
I love this, and I think I said this last time. I love the those spherical transmat things that you also get in the Sontaran experiment. I love the idea that when you have futuristic technology, that there is still some elements of it they haven't perfected. Things like you have to arrive in those particular areas. Things like that. I just think that's nice and plausible, rather than you just appear somewhere.
Definitely, it's all magical otherwise. I love the fact that Sarah is suspicious of Harry's romantic intentions.
Oh, this whole sequence is brilliant, isn't it?
Well, I really wish that Harry Sullivan was in it more, you know.
Well, that was I think one of the most criminal things really is having a lack of Harry, like, because Harry was probably my favourite, certainly as a kid watching these. I just loved Harry. I thought he was a great character. He was a proper
brilliant
chap. You feel like you could have a good beer with him, you know, and then go and meet the Cybermen.
Well, Ian was a lovely man as well, you know. I met him a few times.
Did you have a great beer with him?
I think we did have a beer. Yeah, in the pub where they the exterior of which they used for Terror of the Zygons. We filmed it around that area in Bognor Regis, I think.
I was going to say, it wasn't Scotland then.
No, it wasn't Scotland. It was Bognor Regis.
Here
Famous
come
for its Scots.
The world's most rubbish soldiers known to man on their silly little boats, which probably blew the budget.
These poor so-and-sos are worried about falling over because they've got such restricted eyesight in those masks.
They're giving it all, though, running around, aren't they?
Oh, yeah. It's amazing what people will do for money.
Uh-oh. Harry spotted them.
Yeah. Oh.
That's done it. It's all right. They're not gonna do an awful lot. I'll give them 5 minutes. They don't even say anything, do they?
No. They're extras. They're not allowed to speak.
We think they'd say like a stop or come with us.
Yes. That's it. They could have just dubbed over can anyone. Oh, we get the yeah.
Oh yeah.
Here it comes.
Look at those guns. Uzi 9mm.
Is that what they are?
I don't know. They look like an Uzi, don't they?
A choosy Uzi.
Excellent work.
Yeah. If he'd fired that would have blown Tony Blackburn's hand off, wouldn't it?
It wouldn't have been very nice. It would have been. They'd get on my wick if I was going around because they have to run they're always running everywhere.
They are the running people.
Like there's a vehicle there. It's not going anywhere, is it? You don't have to run to it.
Yes, imagine Vorus say, "Send the runners down there."
These people in sort of tracksuit bottoms and
the runners will achieve everything.
Lots of Fitbit watches.
It's a little rubbish Dodgem car there. Booga.
I love that reel-to-reel tape machine, which looks like it's just been sellotaped onto the desk. In fact, it's not a very good desk, is it? It's a very quick, just shove any old tech on a bit of MDF wood.
Yep.
Games console. It is, though. Did you see that? Look at it. It's just all look like plonked on. It's not even.
I thought it was the remote control for a sort of, an aeroplane model.
I think they're all just cobbled from bits and bobs, aren't they? Like you go to Maplin's or the equivalent of it then, and just get a few switches and stuff.
Yeah. But time for what, I wonder? We're going to have a bit of cyber. This is when we cut to the cyber ship, the wobbly cyber ship. They're all in there being sick because it's too wobbly. When I first heard the cyber voices in this, I didn't realise it was the Cybermen talking.
Really, you thought it might be like a radio transmission from somebody else?
Well, I thought that can't be. Cybermen don't speak like that. It really shocked me.
Their voices are too human.
16
minutes, time to do, it's just all a bit...
But they have got the same bit of high-frequency ring modulation that they used for the 10th planet, so I think it's really interesting that they looked that up somewhere and thought, we'll put that on and that will make it a Cyberman. So you get that as they speak.
Completely missing the point. Yet they reference all the old stories in this, don't they? Or do they? No, they don't. No, they don't. I'm lying.
No, they don't.
I'm thinking of later on in Earthshock where they show a clip from this story.
Oh, yeah.
He's not
do you
lying.
like my nice Gallifrey table?
Do you like my tunic and my glowing thing in the background? Bit of old wood, a bit of old rock.
Little flashing stalagmite in the background there.
Yeah, that, yeah. Beep, beep. Which has no purpose particularly, does it?
No. I want my stalagmites to flash. Make sure that happens.
Make it so. Yes. I told you, don't come in on your
nose.
Stop it, you're unwell.
Margaret, are you snotting again?
Oh, it's all over the table, all over the walls, the door handles.
Now, is it just, my age and my memories of watching this when I was like 12 or something, that I just think that these scenes are so well played. They're such standard stuff. They're not particularly marvellously written, but they're so well played, aren't they?
Well, they give it their all.
Yes.
Yeah,
I love that.
Because if you were to look at it at a glance, you couldn't look at it and say it didn't look utterly silly. It looks completely ridiculous. But they do give it their all. But it's true though. I mean, look at that bloke. He doesn't exactly look great. But
I can't see past it. I literally can't see that it's not great.
I don't know. I think I can. But I agree with you. They do a great job. They really do. I love that technology there with the way it sort of glazes over. Goes,
That's quite a clever little touch, isn't it?
Yeah.
I love the fact that the Vogons, they realise, the actors realise that they can't do facial expressions, so they do a lot with their voices and moving their heads around and yet hand gestures.
Giving it that Shakespearean kind of...
They're moving everything they can move because they can't move their faces.
Oh, that's what they're paid to do, isn't
Kelman, there's a face you want to slap, isn't it?
Oh, I was going to say, I can't stand Kelman. I'd shove him right in the airlock and get rid of him. See you later, Kelman. Oh, uh-oh.
See, all this bit with the Doctor in the background just manipulating it there. In later seasons, he wouldn't have done that. Tom would have put himself in the forefront of the action, wouldn't he?
Definitely. I think
He'd
it would
be
have been
standing in front of him, pushing the control thing in his face, In
a close-up shot. But I mean, that for me is the glorious bit, especially with this sort of this season of Tom stuff, is because he plays it very understated, a sort of travelling hippie, isn't he? And very sort of bohemian. That
threatening of Kelman music there, that I'm pretty certain that was Peter Howell. That
Definitely.
Wasn't.
Come on.
That wasn't Carrie Blyton, was it? It was Peter Howell just doing a last-minute fix job because Philip Hinchcliffe didn't like the music for this story.
Carrie Blyton would have just done it on a load of saxophones. Yes, this is
the
Revenge of the Cybermen.
Soundtrack of Revenge of the Cybermen, provided by Nick and Benji. Nick on the drum, and Benji on the lighter and the mouth. We could just do this for the whole of the rest of the episode.
You're lucky that we are. It'll all be wonderfully out of sync, which will be even funnier. Oh dear. He's fallen asleep on the job.
Don't move. I bet that's not the same extra who was on location.
Why they keep a corpse in the middle of their control room? It'd smell bad, wouldn't it?
We must keep the corpse here for at least until the confrontation scene. It is a tradition on Voga.
I'm sure it is.
He's dead now. When will we bury him? Well, we have to have the confrontation scene.
But it's in scene 49. It's at the end of the whole.
I don't want to confront anyone. Why do I have to have a confrontation scene? It is the Vogan way. There must be a confrontation scene. What about? Well, who paid for the milk yesterday? I don't know. There you are. There's a confrontation right there.
And that is the entire plot of the fifth episode.
It's the confrontation music.
I'd hate to be a Vogan because their eyebrows are constantly up high, so they're always looking slightly surprised.
Yes.
Don't have to hit the door.
I've just knocked something on the floor. I hope it's just not something important.
Well, it could be.
Oh dear, my whole life has fallen into an abyss.
There's a lot of hitting going on. The bloke hit the door. Now Harry's hitting the shackles,
and I'm hitting my drum.
And you're hitting your drum. I mean, it's all out of control. It's all gone pear-shaped.
I think we've gone slightly mad. putting that drum away.
I'm sure that those stalagmites there are the same ones used in Genesis of the Daleks. It looks very similar to the. You know the bit where they're in the sort of caves where Davros's experiments are kept. It all looks very similar.
It's probably the same cave, isn't it?
Probably is the same cave. Yeah.
They've just sprayed a bit of gold around. Oh, it's point blank range, missed. I think last time we spoke about this, I tried to mention the Naked Gun, where there's this famous scene. I think it's in the movie, but it might be in one of the episodes of Police Squad, where they're having a gunfight. Leslie Nielsen and a woman are having a gunfight either side of the same dustbin. So they're literally just so close and looking round and shooting, and it's totally ridiculous. And that's this episode. Like what's happening here.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? That's exactly. It might as well be those two having a gunfight either side of the console.
Bless Michael Wisher and his handkerchief. I think that handkerchief should have got progressively filthy throughout the story.
And
by the end of it, it just looks like he's wiped his bottom on it.
I told you.
The toilets are all backed up for us. We better have a confrontation scene about it. Oh no.
Oh, Tony Blackburn
the
there.
episode is nigh.
I love the radar effect as well. Look at that. It just looks so analog and brilliant. And just in case you can't see it on the massive screen in front of him, he's also got it on the little screen as well.
Oh, sir, I don't know which one to look at, the big one or the small one.
Oh, you have the choice. Look at Kelman's face there.
Yeah, the chickens are coming home to roost now, he's thinking. The Cybermen are coming home to roost. No, that doesn't make sense. Now,
that must have been quite a bit of acting there. Bear in mind that you're dealing with a sort of paper mache polystyrene stalagnite that's got to break open some shackles, which probably are slightly stronger.
Yeah, the shackles are made of plastic and it's polystyrene for the. They had excellent acting. I mean, a huge thing in Doctor Who, even today, I think, is being able to act with very unconvincing props.
That's what made it so brilliant.
I do seem to remember Matt Smith got through a lot of sonic screwdrivers when he broke one. The props, standby props, kind of like, here we go again, and he'd have a whole box of them. Give him another one. He'd go, sorry guys, I don't. It's broken.
They're quite delicate things, though, aren't they? Especially his sonic's got all lots of sticky out bits on it, hasn't it?
I remember David Tennant in the Daleks in Manhattan. He did something with a huge a jar of fluid that was in the Daleks control room, and he just touched it or picked it up, and it just came apart and fluid went everywhere.
Oh,
and David
God.
was going, I literally just touched it.
Oh no, that's one of those things you don't want it to be you, do you? You think, oh, why me?
Exactly. You can get away with it when you're the star, I suppose. And by the way, I wanted to just mention about that scene when they're radioing the cyber ship and saying, this is a Nerva beacon. What if the cyber leader hadn't given strict orders and one of the cyber lieutenants had accidentally answered that? Yes. Oh, hello, it's Nerva beacon. We're coming to kill you. What?
Yeah.
I told you not to tell them.
Switch it off.
Yes, leader. Is it off? I
we
think
can still
so.
hear you.
It's that button over there. Oh, right. Yeah.
That looks like corrugated cardboard in the nose cone.
Now, can any ship turn quite like that? I don't know.
Well, it's the same manoeuvre we've seen it do 3 times now. It's always facing the wrong way, isn't it? They should have shot some. They should have done better. Wibbly wobbly, wibbly wobbly.
Well, it's very on a bit of string, isn't it?
It's a shame. Bless them.
Look at Tom's face there, really selling that fear and that concern.
Yes.
Meanwhile, Harry and Sarah are going down some steps. And the runners are after them. Surprise, surprise. And look, they're back in the same place they were. Only a few, and there's the same archway that they ran through earlier. Oh. And there's the river.
I think that's the same footage of them coming through that arch, that tunnel there.
Definitely.
They've just cut in something. Now, I hate to mention this, but this is where the recording cut out last time. So fingers crossed, everyone.
Fingers crossed this was, yeah.
Because I haven't got any more time. My wife is waiting for me to go to lunch.
Well,
it's the end, Sarah.
Who knows? Stop shouting.
Stop
That guy is absolutely milking those words, isn't he? He's really...
I love the way, a little bit of green lighting behind him there. The lighting director got a bit artistic.
Thought, yeah, this is my moment.
A shrubbery!
A shrubbery!
God, these are the walkers. The others are the runners. These are the walkers.
So they're more unhealthy, but they're identified by their long hair.
And maxi dresses. They've got maxi length dresses, yeah. We've got no chance against the walkers.
They do not fear us.
It's the same bunch of extras, isn't it? Just redressed. You don't ever see them all together.
Oh, no. I dare say they just sellotape longer hair.
Now, I went into a long old diatribe before I realised the recording had cut off about this guy being an invisible enemy. And you'd think I would have looked him up in the meantime, but I've completely forgotten.
Well, I'm not going to look anything up. I'm too scared.
I remember him saying an invisible enemy. Does anyone out there sympathise with that strange affliction?
See, the guy in Invisible Enemy,
statue.
He's got a better mask than everybody else.
Who has?
That chap.
Tyrum.
It's a bit more expressive.
What, the guy from Invisible Enemy or Tyrum?
It might be Tyrum.
The one with the long beard?
No.
Oh, the other one.
The guy from Invisible Enemy. What about the statue?
Well, I'd never noticed it before. These strange sex education element.
Well, they're very phallic. It's a very phallic story, isn't it, really?
I love this music. Great alarm sound. I love that alarm sound. It's lovely.
Oh, it's going towards the Kazi's P section. Yes, I'm desperate. It's all green lighting as well.
Yeah. And the doctor, he's giving it a go. No. I mean,
I wouldn't bother.
He seems to be. Yeah, he knows it's the Cybermen. Why on earth is he trying to wrestle with his bare hands? It's no good.
Oh, I love that. You don't get enough of things coming through airlocks in Doctor Who like that.
There's a bit of bubble wrap behind the door.
Oh, he's at it.
He said, well,
if I'd had a better reception, I wouldn't have shot you.
I could have brought flowers. Tom there, sneaking away.
He's at it.
Oh, no. He's died. The Doctor's died.
I mean, yeah, the agony there is really quite... I think Tom was taking the mickey, don't you?
It's a great bit, though. Great bit of work. Excellent.
Is ours.
Yeah.
Oh, there we have it.
So,
getting pretty heated now, isn't it? Episode 2 in the can. Episode 3 is next time. Will the Doctor live? Who knows? Probably, because...
No, this was actually the end of Doctor Who.
Yeah, it's finished now.
Oh.
Yeah, well, that was, it's a shame people don't really remember this old show. Because it's sort of, you'd feel like it would probably have quite a good reaction if it came back, for example. But what can you do,
Yes. Yeah.
I think it's only really remembered for Carrie Blyton's contribution, which,
That's how Doctor Who is remembered, Carrie Blyton. I know there are, in some small villages in the west of England, there are vast gatherings of people going...
Yes, it's a sort of like a ritual, isn't it? Richard.
Yes.
Mainly done by people called
the
Richard.
Carrie Blyton ritual. Well, there we have it. I have nothing more to say. What are we going to do next week?
Next week? Good question. What are we going to do next week? Should we decide something? And we've not done one of those for a while, have we? A watchy thing? It feels like we haven't.
No, we haven't. We've got to decide on something to watch. What should we watch?
Well, this is
we can watch it at my place tomorrow night, couldn't we?
Now that is a very safe suggestion, isn't it? But what, my dear fellow, could we watch? What? The Eye of Time, brother. The Eye of Time. We haven't done any Blake 7.
I haven't got any Blake 7.
I've got Blake 7, so we could do Blake 7.
Watch the first episode of Blake 7.
That's a good one, isn't it?
So we'll be able to watch that at my place on your...
I'll bring the DVD. I'll put it in my bag in a minute.
Lovely.
Yeah,
well, there we are. Episode 1 of Blake 7 is what we're going to do. I have not seen that in very approximately a million years.
That could be good fun. This could be good viewing. Dun, dun, dun. And it would be nice as well to kind of, with the sad passing of Paul Darrow recently, I think it would be nice to kind of revisit Blake 7.
Should we just see if Jamie Anderson's around?
Yeah, why not? John Sanderson.
What about John Sanderson? Hello.
Hello.
Just doing a podcast.
You just caught me on my way somewhere very important.
Well, there's no time to speak to you anyway.
Oh. We'll just go straight away then.
All right, well, I'll see you soon then.
But when I said important, I mean I was going to go to the loo.
Well, it is very important.
It's right there, you see.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah, that's the door behind you. Oh, that's good. Well, we've just managed to successfully do the part 2 of Revenge of the Cybermen commentary.
Excellent.
Yeah, literally. Benji, have you got a question for
Can
Jamie
get one up.
before
Yeah,
he goes
hold
to
on.
Lou?
Yeah,
I think he's
on.
doing a little dance. He's desperate.
Dum, 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 ba, bum, bum, ba, bum, bum.
Just
Random
gentle
question
side to side.
generator. Okay.
And then we'll leave you alone to go to the loo.
Thank you.
And I've got to go
hold
and
on.
have lunch with Steph.
Even more important,
Yeah.
I would say. Burger.
Could be. Chicken burger.
Oh.
Do you want me to send you a photo?
Yes, please. That'd be lovely. I love a photo of a good burger.
Okay, the question machine has spoken. If you could change 3 things about your country, what would you change?
Hang on. Why are we... I don't know.
You better make it frivolous.
I was going to say...
Don't make a list of people who you'd shoot.
Never do anything like that.
No.
A national Doctor Who and or Jerry Anderson Day
Yeah, good.
Good shout.
would be good. Probably making classic Thunderbirds part of the national curriculum, because that would inspire people to do good and
Rescue people.
and rescue people, and also go into science and that sort of thing.
Excellent.
And live on nice little islands.
Got a little interesting one at the end here. Actually, I'm not going to say that.
I wonder what it was.
It's interesting, but it's probably not worth putting into the world.
Okay.
I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
Teach people how to behave on social media.
Oh, good shout.
Because it's come up so quickly, nobody knows. Everyone learned to be polite from their parents or grandparents in social situations, but nobody's had a grounding in how to behave on social. So there you go.
That's brilliant. What would happen on the Doctor Who / Jerry Anderson Day? What would the nation do on those days?
Watch those things, obviously.
Oh, right.
Bow down to a row of statues of all the doctors and Dad. I don't know.
Go to the toilet!
Bit weird. I need to go!
All right, then. Thanks ever so much. Cheerio.
Bye.
Thanks for putting off my pee. Bye.
Bye.
Let's go into P section.
He'll find the Cybermen when he gets past there.
Yeah, they're looking for the beacon.
All right, then. Time to get very close to the microphone.
Yes, very quickly. I suppose it is. It's that time. Well,
Yes.
it's been a thoroughly enjoyable bit of entertainment, and so from me, it's goodbye.
And from me, it's goodbye.
Goodbye.
Pressing stop now. Ka-chunk.